Hey folks, welcome to another lecture, and we are almost in the last part of the navigation component. So in the previous videos we started making the UI of the navigation component. We started with the mobile first design approach. We created the UI and we started building various types of components like nav items, nav groups. We used the compound pattern, the composition pattern to deliver our UI, and over the top of that we used config driven. We learned how we can drive this menu via config. We saw Vercel edge. Then when all of this was done, we created a storybook component, and lastly our last task is to write test cases, which would be covered in this particular lecture. Alright, so let's begin. We have already set up Jest, we have already set up React testing library, and while doing the setup, I showed you guys a dummy test case for button. I told you that we'll talk about it in deep later, and yeah, obviously we will. So let's come back. Okay, so maybe we would need these utils. Alright, so I'll just copy these, and inside nav I'll create a new file called as nav.test.tsx. okay, I'll paste the imports. Basically we are using describe, expect, test from Jest globals, and we are importing render and screen from the React testing library. We have already discussed why do we need Jest and why do we need a React testing library, but let me recall that for you guys. That Jest provides you the environment to run the test, and over the top of Jest we have various types of libraries to test a particular framework. So for React we have a React testing library, maybe for Vue there is something another, maybe for Flutter there is something else, and so on. So that is how the things are set up even in productions. Okay, if you check out any test code base on React in any company, they'll be definitely using Jest and React testing library as a combination. That is an industry standard. So to create a test case, I think we should test two cases. The first case is when the user is logged in, and another test case is when the user is not logged in. I know that in the UI we have not configured it to look like that. Okay, what I mean by that is if you see the avatar component, so avatar component, if you are a logged in user, it changes into your profile picture, and if you are not a logged in user, it shows a login button. That is one behavior. Another behavior which is missing, so the previous was implemented, this feature is missing, is that the profile items, the filters which you see like your profile, your work, your projects, these buttons should be hidden if you are unauthenticated, if you are not signed in. That is what we have to implement. Should be a quick fix, not too hard to implement, but for now let's just start writing the test cases, and meanwhile we'll improve the feature as well. So I'll head over, I'll start my test case with a describe statement saying that what this test is for. So I'll say navbar tests, and we provide a callback function over here like this. Now inside describe we have various types of test case scenarios which we can implement. So we have to do something like it. Okay, and inside it, and we can say something like should render what is test, one second. So it is using test, we can write test, and we can use it as well. Is it picking up test? Okay, so it is coming from Mocha, we can move it to test, that is also fine. So it should render navbar just like this. Okay, let's keep it like this, should render navbar, that's all we need to test for now. And we provide a callback, and over here we are writing a test case. So I can do something like const like this. Okay, const brackets, and then I render, and over here I'll render my navbar like this, and navbar is coming from dot slash index. So we have a basic test case. We have to supply the initial data, because inside test case I really don't want to make any edge calls, so I would hard code the data. So we have this external nav, right? So I'll just say external nav equals to nav data like this, and yeah, it is complaining because it has to be as nav data type. Alrighty, this is looking good. Now what you have to do is go to terminal. You can clear the logs and hit yarn jest, and it will start executing the test cases. You can see that there are two test cases that are being run. One failed and one passed. I know it was expected to fail. I'll also explain in a reason. So you can see that it is complaining that use session must be wrapped in a session provider, and we have already seen this error while we were writing the storybook component. So we have to wrap this in a session provider. Obviously, okay, we can wrap this, and let's see what happens after we wrap it. So we have to import auth provider. So I'll just wrap my stuff like this. Okay, so we have wrapped our stuff. Now we'll hit yarn jest. Now you can see that the test case is passed. So one passed and one failed, and it was unable to comprehend due to some reasons, and let's check why. So now the issue is with next auth, okay, utils logger and something, and while returning it is unable to comprehend. Okay, it is unable to comprehend with the next auth. Then what is wrong over here? So shall we not use auth provider, or what is the problem? So if we try to see the avatar, in avatar the only thing which we are having over here is that this use session must have a wrapper. Okay, so the only problem we have is with this use session, because it requires some context. The moment we start giving context, now it is unable to fetch the session from the server. Okay, fetch is not defined, something like this. So does it means that we won't be able to test it? No, that is not the case. Ideally what you can do is you can just render your nav bar. You can get rid of auth provider. Okay, you really don't need to provide that stuff over here. And I want to take you to a article on Stack Overflow that is on how to mock a React custom hook, okay, return value. So if you want to mock anything for the entire test file, we can use jest.mock. And if you want to mock something for a particular test case, for one test case with different values for scenarios, you can use spy on. So we are going to use this spy on part, and I will explain as well. So if I head over and do it something like star as hooks from module / path module name, and from over I will just change the module with next auth. Okay, like this as hooks. The next thing I want to do is I want to copy this, okay, and before rendering it, I just call this jest.spyon. It is unable to find jest, so I'll just import jest, and from hooks I will mock use session. Okay, use session, and what it would return, use session is returning me data and status. Okay, so I am just going to copy this, paste it like this. The first thing is going to be data. Data would be an object, and what exactly are we consuming in avatar? So session.user.image is all we are using. So session.user image as this is a string. Okay, so I pass a string, and what it is complaining, yeah, I know that the status is going to be something. So let's give status something as, so you can already see we are starting to get the options. So for example, if I say status is authenticated, will it work? And what else is missing? Property expires is missing, but required type in session. Okay, we can skip it for now maybe. Now if I do it something like this and I save my test, it should at least run. Let us see, and you can see that both of the test cases passed. This way we comprehended ourselves from like using the actual library functions, and we just mocked our implementations based on our need. So what exactly is happening? I'll tell you that you got the error, right? The previous error was that the next auth was not able to make session calls to fetch the data, because this is a test environment and we really don't have anything, any server running. Okay, we don't have any connection to backend APIs. What we did was, the first advantage we had was that in the navbar we can provide some mock data via external nav data, so it saved us from making a fetch call. That's one thing. Another thing which was good, that we used spyon. Okay, so we imported everything from Next.auth as hooks. Okay, as hooks, or I could, if hooks was complaining because Next.auth React doesn't really export hooks. Okay, so I can do it something like Next.auth import everything as Next.auth, and inside Next.auth I want to mock use session. Inside use session I want to mock the implementation so that it always returns these values. Okay, this value. Okay, this is the value which is being returned, data and the status. That's it. Now what is the expectation? So if you are authenticated, what exactly should you see? I should see, what should I see? If it is not loading and if we are logged in, you should see your profile picture. Okay, so if I add a test ID, data test ID as profile picture. Okay, and over here it would give me something like get by test ID, get all by, no, not get all, it should be get by test ID. We just want to fetch one stuff. So I would do something like, after the render, this is where the render is ending, after this line, get element by ID, and I pass my ID. The ID which we created was profile underscore picture, and I do something like const profile picture element equals to, and then I add a test case. Right now we didn't asserted anything, we didn't right, we haven't written any test case, we just ran our application. Now we are writing assertions. Assertions means that we write certain conditions to match. So I expect this element, so I expect expect profile picture element dot to be in the document. We are not getting to be in the document. Let's check why. It should be present. To be in document is not a function. Why is it not coming? Because we have to, you need to install jest DOM to enable it. All right. So we are going to import jest DOM. Do we have it installed? Is it complaining? No, it is not complaining. Dot to be in the document, this is not giving. So let's check, do we have this jest DOM in the package.json? Yeah, we already have it. We have imported it. When you do, make sure there's a setup test file with the following statement. Okay, do we have a setup test file? Yes, we have imported, we have already imported it. And let's add this as well. We don't need, once we have the setup, we don't need to do anything. So now if I do something like to be, now still I am not getting that thing. Maybe it is the like the, what should I say, the the suggestions is not working. Maybe let us try to hit and run, see if the tests are running. Okay, expand expect, this is complaining, so I can remove this and hit yarn jest, and one failed. And why did it fail? Unable to find the element. Okay, the element was not getting rendered because maybe the test ID was not being passed. Does the thing we have to check is that does it even supports this test ID? So avatar.image, avatar image props, extend primitive image props, and it is a mess. So let us check Redux image test ID, forward a test ID prop. Yeah, we have something around it. Does it sounds good? No, this is, I could definitely just forward. I believe React already forwards any data props. Let us run the application and see if we are getting that yarn like the test ID on the element. So let's hit localhost 3000. We have this navigation menu. Let's log in, sign in with Google, and let's quickly check that whether Redux UI is actually adding anything on this. So we do have data test ID. Okay, then if we have, what if I provide some valid link, copy link address, because right now what I am seeing is that the src is something gibberish which is not working. So I'll copy the actual src. Okay, now if we try to hit the test, is it working, and it is still unable to get it. And I can clearly see that text wise cursor, we have this SVG being loaded. We still have the pulsating animation. Okay, we still have the pulsating animation. The image was not getting loaded. All right. Okay, so you can see that we have this pulsating loading class, and it didn't load it as expected. So what can be done? How can we make sure the image is getting loaded? We have this fallback that is getting rendered, maybe because it is unable to make a API call. So how can we fix this? This is a interesting part, but at least it is not running into this loading statement. Yeah, that is for sure. It is unable to render the image on the test site. So let us set Google on something like just unable to render image from URL. Let us see how to test a image src. Get by alternative text. Okay, all right. So do we have even alternative text working? Because it is automatically going to the fallback. It is unable to render it. Here they are passing the exact assets. Okay, so it is talking about URI over here. Redux UI image. Okay, the tests are failing. That is not what we want. Alrighty. Then what is the alternative? Maybe if we don't pass the exact URL, it is unable to load the image. Okay, and we are not seeing any error. Okay, so what exactly can be done in this scenario is that we can use alt. Okay, the profile picture, this alt is certainly not present because this is a pulsating image over here and the alt is not there. So I can just copy this alt and provide it over here. And is it complaining that alt doesn't exist? Wow. Okay, now we have to add a test ID on this, and we can say something like profile shimmer, and we can upgrade our test to something like profile shimmer. Now this has to be at least present. Okay, and yeah, this error is maybe the VS Code is unable to comprehend, but to be in the document is working just fine. So what we did just now was that we rendered our navbar, we added a test ID to one of the shimmer component, and we expected that shimmer element to be in the document. Okay, what is a document? So this complete HTML which you are seeing is the document in which we are testing it. This was one part. Now we have to test scenarios where user is logged in, where user is not logged in, something like that. So let's make our test even more better. Okay, so our test case would look something right. It should render navbar when unauthenticated, or when authenticated, or unauthenticated. So we can do something like this. And another test case when the user is authenticated. Okay, these are the two scenarios that we have to test. Right now our component navbar is not compliant with this particular test case, because the items which we are showing over there are still visible irrespective of whether it is like logged in or logged out. So I am talking about this particular part, your works, projects and filter. It is shown always irrespective of the scenario. So we have to firstly fix this, and to fix this, I think the best part would be to go inside nav, and over here, so this is a nav item. Okay, this is a nav item, and over here this is your rendering. Okay, this is the rendered part. Now while we are rendering the item, we have to now be careful whether this particular item is going to be under authentication, or the particular group would fall under the category. So I think it would be a wise idea to put the check on the item instead of group, because a group may contain some items related to users who are logged in, and it might also contain some items which is global and it doesn't affects the user whether logged in or logged out. So to do that, we have this part called as item, then we pass the key, and we pass the content. Over here at the top, are we checking authentication use effect? No, not really, right? And this is even a client component. Maybe we can make use of the use session data over here on the item. So I can do something like const, or maybe we can copy it as well. It would save us some time. Okay, and we have to only check the status, and we can import the use session. Then we have props from children, and we have to do something like a boolean flag which would be true if we want to show this item on authentication only. So I can do something like auth only. By default it would be false. Okay, and I can do something like if auth only, sorry about that, if auth only and status. Okay, so if auth only and status, why there we have double, yeah, and status is not equals to authenticated, then return empty JSX. Okay, and we can start testing by making one of the item, for example your works, as a auth only item. So your works, we add a flag and I call this as true. I'll save this. It is saying invalid JSON. Yeah, we are missing this. I saved it, saved the edge config. I start the application. Yeah, I think the request is cached, so we can restart the server and refresh. Okay, it is not working as expected. Now this is authenticated, so it is showing. Now we have to get rid of the cookies. Okay, so we have to do application clear site data, hard refresh, and this is still showing. Strange. This is really very strange. Let's check the data that is coming from the edge config. Console.log data. Let's check the array. We have the second nav group, items, your works. This is auth only true. Yeah. Alright, I think I found the issue. I am not passing this prop. This is what is missing. Yep, I think I got the issue. So this has to be auth only, and nav item dot auth only. And now you can see it is working. Now if I log in, and you can see it shows this is working fine. This looks much better. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll add auth only or across all the three items. Okay, I'll save my config, and after that I'll also update my nav data. So this is, I think, here. So the local testing data has also to be in sync. We did this. Now let's come back. I think now we are ready with this. What we are missing right now is these properties. Alright, so let's check the nav type. We have nav item, and we have something called as auth only optional prop, which would be a boolean. This should solve most of the issues over here. And now over here, this item which you are seeing, nav item, is part of composition, but it is also accepting auth only. I think this is a good time to check like how powerful TypeScript is. We can extend this particular interface by doing something like interface nav item props extends composition, and I can introduce auth only optional prop maybe as something boolean. And over here, if I put this, the error is gone, right? This is looking awesome. Okay, now let's come back to the test. We have the status authenticated, and another would be unauthenticated. Okay, now we are testing that the shimmer has to be present. That is fine, but we have to also see that const let's grab the nav data so that we can see this. Let's grab it over here. So we have to check that your work should not be present. That is what we have. If it is unauthenticated, your work should not be present. So I'll do something like const your work equals to from over here get by text. Okay, so get by text, we are passing the your work test, and I think I can copy this line and say something like expect your work not to be in the document. Okay, and I can do something over here like expect your work to be in the document. Okay, and be it like this, and let us now try to run these test cases. What is saying that it is saying get by text is not defined. Yeah, because we have not exported it over here. Okay, now why the test is failing? The test is failing for which suit is failing. So should render when unauthenticated. Okay, so how is the div exactly looking? We have JS Cafe, we have login, and when it is unauthenticated, then we are not getting the shimmer when the status is unauthenticated. Yep, obviously we won't get the shimmer. We would get the login button over here. So I would do something, so the shimmer should not be present. Expect to not be present, and instead we should expect this login button. All right, so I could do something like data test id equals to login btn. Okay, and I grab this login btn, I come over here, and I just paste this, and I can copy this part and paste it over here. I can change the test id, login btn, expect login btn to be in the document. Now if we run the test, we have another error. Okay. Now the problem over here is that it is trying to find a shimmer for unauthenticated via get by test id. So what it does, what get by test id does is that whenever it makes this function call, if the element is not present, okay, it will throw an error. So we have to first check the alternative. So alternative without error. So we have this query selector. So get is expecting. So we have something like, I think, query by test id, query query by test id. So query will not, I think this should not throw an error. Okay, it will try to query it and it will place the result over here. If the element is not found, I think this should be working. Now let us try to see if this works. Okay, this is working. So similar is the case with this your work. So your work is not expected, so we have to change it to query. So the difference between query and get is that get, if the element is not found in the get parameters, it will throw an error. Okay, but with query is that it will not throw an error and you can assert the non-existent test. Okay, this is how this will work. Now over here I can change get by text. Okay, this is, yeah, over here query by text, query by text. This should also work, and get by test is also being exported, so we will use that also. Now let us try to run the test, and yes, all the tests are passing. This is amazing. So over here, what we have done is we have written the tests of unauthenticated case, what is expected, and over here we can write the test cases for the authentication. Right now over here things are cluttered a little bit, so I'll add some comments. Render navbar, query the shimmer, query your work item, query login button. Okay, and similar in this case, when you are authenticated, you can expect the shimmer, you can expect your work. What you will not expect is a login button. Okay, so instead of this is not query, this is get. Okay, over here we will make a query. So query by test id, query by test id, we will change it to query, and login button should not exist. Yarn jest, and yeah, this is working all good. And why is it not generating the reports? What's wrong? Yarn jest. Oh, I think the reports are used by yarn test. Okay, yarn test would generate the report also. So we are approximately meeting 83.69%. Oh yeah, I remember putting up the coverage as 100%. Okay, that is not something I want to keep because 100% coverage would take a lot of time. But yeah, as if you want to really learn the test cases and everything, you can keep it as 100, but this is just for learning purpose, so I am going to keep this around 70%. Okay, so that nothing is messed up. Now if I try to run yarn test, I probably think okay, so okay, we are a little less than the coverage. What we are missing is that we are missing 22 to 29, and then we have theme toggle, which is something we are not testing at all. Okay, and then we have index .tsx, no, nav.tsx. Now over here we have to read carefully and see what are the scenarios we can test. The first is nav.tsx. Inside nav.tsx, it is complaining a lot. So in nav.tsx, it is saying line 27. Okay, yeah, this cannot be tested because this is not a mobile mode. Okay, we have to then mock use window dimensions. Okay, and then we have to add more cases. That is one thing. Then we have 82 to 86. We have 82 to, yeah, obviously this is a fetch call. We are not mocking it, so we can't test this. Then we have 89, obviously. Then we have 22 to 29 in nav avatar, 22 to 29. But we are testing, right? 22 to this should not be present. If it is not loading and it is not logged in, but we are testing login button. We are already doing it, so that should not be the case. Then we have use window dimensions. So we can add one test. Okay, by default, if we check the custom hook, hooks use window dimensions. By default is desktop is true. Okay, so we have to make this as false, so we can clearly do that. It is not a issue. Test navbar in mobile view. Okay, simple as that. And we can mock this part, and we have to import the custom hook use window dimensions. So import use window dimensions like this. So I'll cut this. I'll say import star as window dimensions. Okay, and I'll add another spy on this. I'll add the spy on use window dimensions, and I am going to mock this particular hook. Argument of type use window dimension is not assignable to parameter of type. It is now complaining something. Okay, so we have to perform a named export, that is why it is complaining. So if I do something like this, okay, the files are going to crash. So let me first check it over here. Is it now working? Yeah, now it is not complaining. So default exports are difficult to mock, so we have to do something like this. And to achieve this, let me check where exactly I have imported. So I have imported here, so like this, and yeah, that was the only case I was using. Anyways, that is good. Coming back, it should return an object. The first object would be window dimensions, and is desktop. So I'll change it to false. Is desktop would be false, and window dimensions is returning height and width. Okay, so I'll just pass some silly values. So width like 300, height like 300. Okay, this way we are doing it. And then I render my navigation component over here. And so if it is a mobile view, okay, so if it is a mobile view, by default the navigation items are like hidden. Okay, this is how it is implemented. So if you check this, this is navigation render, this is children, and over here you can see that we have the hamburger icon. So we should expect hamburger icon, right? So data test id equals to hamburger. Did I spell it right? B is small. So hamburger. Okay. So I will copy this and I'll say const burger, or like CTA equals to get by test ID my hamburger, and expect it. I am going to expect it to be present in my document. So expect CTA to be in the document. Now if we run the test, this should pass Yeah, one failed. One test failed. Why? Cannot redefine property use window dimensions. Okay. Why? Why exactly you can't define? This is completely silly, right? Let us check why is it complaining so. This is strange. Okay. Cannot redefine property custom hook. Okay, what is it is saying? Import star as a step from slash use stay. Okay. No, this is not the case. Okay, they have something called as replace object. Okay, let's try this. We can comment this out. Just dot replace property, then a context, then like this. So window dimensions, use window dimensions, then an object, and the object is containing this. Okay. Object literal may only specify known properties and window dimension in type, but this exists. It is literally saying it exists, but it is a returned function. Okay. Okay, it has to be a function over here, like this. Now what's the matter? I don't know, man, this is crazy. All right, finally the issue was fixed, and it was indeed a learning curve as well. I landed upon this article. You can check this URL, and the problem with this was that the error typically arises when attempting to mock functions that directly exported from a package. So if anything is directly exported from something, then it is really very hard to spy upon it. So as a workaround, what we have done is that we have this particular custom hook. For example, create another file and create a variable, add that custom hook over here and export it. Okay, so if we talk about in our code base, what I did was that we have this use window dimensions. Okay, and over here I created a file index.ts where I imported use dimensions. I created another variable called custom hook and I exported default the custom hook. That's one thing. Then over here in the nav.tsx, I imported my custom hooks over here, and over here I just said just spy on custom hooks, use window dimensions, and the code was as it is. So we can get rid of this part. Okay, now this was custom hook, use window dimensions. And another thing you have to do is you have to import the custom hooks over here like this, and maybe we can move this a little upwards, and you destructure use window dimensions over here like this. Okay, once this is done, everything, you hit yarn test, and you will witness that all the test cases will pass. Over here, okay, something went missing. Let me just undo my stuffs. Maybe this was the error. And yeah, the test passed. So make sure that the custom hooks which you are importing is imported over here like this. And let us also check that if anything is breaking. Well, usually it looks good to me. Yeah, nothing is breaking actually. And if we check the mobile view, we are still getting the functionality. This is awesome. Alright, so we have written the test case, and we are still a little behind the threshold, and the video is too long. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly again shift the threshold, because I really don't want to emphasize much on writing or improving the coverage, because it will take a lot of time, and we are already around 15-16 lectures just for the navigation bar, so it is just not worth the time. So I'll just quickly go to the config and let's delve it to 60. I know it is a poor number, but we have to respect time as well, because we can't I can't really focus on the testing part only for the next 2-3 videos and we skip learning React. So again, if I hit yarn test, and yeah, I think this is perfect. So we have created everything. Now is the time to check if the build is working fine. So yarn build. Okay. Permission. Yeah, because my dev build is already working. So yeah, yarn build. Yep, the pages will work. So okay, we are in the nav storybook. We didn't change to master. So what I'll do is I'll quickly add stage the changes, perform a git stash, and yep, git checkout master, git pull origin master, then git stash apply. Okay, then I'll create a new branch called as Navbar tests. I'll add all of my changes, add as a commit, write ut stands for unit test for Navbar. I'll push my branch, and yeah, I think there is one thing missing. Okay, before so this will fail. Okay, the coverage would fail. I'll tell you why. Because the runner which we have created is picking the picking the YAML file from the master branch, and on the master branch the threshold is still 100%. So just runner will fail for sure, because I'll show you the report as well. Waiting for status to be reported. Is it running? Yeah, it is running. Let us quickly keep an eye. So it is performing a yarn stall. Okay, it did pass. Is there something wrong with the YAML file? Okay, let us check GitHub test runners. And what is the command we are running? Yarn test is what we are running. Yeah. Okay. Or maybe since the maybe it is picking up from the current threshold. We can perform a test. Yes, we can perform a test. If I change the threshold back to 100, okay, we can confirm. Okay, now if I hit yarn test, it will fail. Yes, now I'll push this change just for testing purpose. 100 coverage. Let's come back. Okay, the commit was done. Now we will check for the runner. Let us see if it is failing or not. Okay, it is failing. It is failing. All right. So whatever changes we make is being picked in the current file. So if we move this back to 60 and say back to 60, and I'll show you how the PR looks. So this cross check you see right now is how it will look, and it will not allow me to merge. Okay, since I'm the owner, I'm getting this option to merge without permission, but if there is another team member from my company or co-working space or whatsoever, they'll not see this option until the checks are passed. So I'll say back to 60, stage my changes, commit, and push this, and we should be green. All right, we are all green. So let's squash and merge, and we are all set for this particular lecture. And before that, let's quickly change our branch to master again, so that we don't have to stash and perform stuffs and resync. And this was all. So we learned how to manage thresholds. We learned how to write test cases. We saw how to mock the values, and it was a pretty interesting topic. And trust me, writing test cases is very important, because big companies, they have a lot of test cases, and if you're not very familiar with Jest and RTL, React Testing Library, then the life would get a little difficult for you. So I hope this whole thing which we have done today was really helpful, and the navigation component feature is done. Now we'll head on to the next part, where we create the sidebar and we'll deal with tickets and other stuffs. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next lecture.